My name is Glory Turnbull. I'm here interviewing Jud Austin, who is an avocational archaeologist who works for CoBALT, Coastal Bend Archaeological Logistics Team. And this is part of an oral history project with the Museum of the Coastal Bend. So, my first question today is any of your family interested in archaeology?
No, my sister did some screening down at down on 1898, I believe, but she was the only one that ever got involved with that. And my brother-in-law found a lot of artifacts down there for Bill. Turnbull.
Right. So last interview, you'd mentioned that you and your wife had both graduated from the same school. Did you two go to school together?
Yes, we graduated from Victoria Patty Welder High School. That was before it was changed to something else, but it was a high school and junior college, both there on the site of Patty Welder campus. We both graduated from that location, and she got her Associate of Arts from Victoria College, and I got mine. And I came back later to the University of Houston and got my degree from there. Since they brought it to me, it was about the time I moved over here. They got it where I could. I drove from Bay City over to here to get started, but my course of my life got me transferred over to Victoria, and I finished my degree here.
Right. What does your wife think about you doing archaeology?
Well, she thinks it's a good place to get rid of me, I guess. I spend a couple of days a week. I was spending 3 days a week, but lately I'm not going out on the site anymore. But she really has encouraged me to do this. And thank goodness for that, because I guess I'd be sitting at home bored to death if I wasn't doing it. And it's an activity that really keeps me thinking about where we are and what's going on.
Right. So you say now you spend 2 days a week in the archaeology lab. What do you do there?
Well, I'm recording the pictures for the group. All the pictures that they take on the site are recorded, and we keep a record of all those by the unit, and it's well documented. Bill and some of the others take good pictures, and I've got the responsibility of putting it in the records that we are keeping there.
Right. So why is it important to document everything that we find?
Well, it's important because once it's destroyed, which we're destroying it, it will never be the same again. And it gives us an idea of where these items actually came from. And that gives the artifacts real value, because I know where they came from and when they were placed there.
Okay, so when you used to go out to the site, what would you do there?
Well, I was the head screener, and Bill fixed me up a fancy screen that he fixed it up with an automatic shaker, but I overloaded it, and it no longer an automatic shaker. So I was in a hurry to get it done and overloaded it, and I should have not done that. But they're still using it, and it's well done. Bill is, of course, our inventor, and he handles all of our needs in the way of anything we need to have on site. He even goes to the trouble of fixing the stairway to get up and down into the pit. And he's just been really, without him, I would have had to retire a lot sooner, which now I've been retired for about, I guess about maybe a year and a half from being out at the site. I'm not out there because the terrain is not really good for us old folks. So I've realized that I have no business being out there in the condition that I'm in now. But I'm still working in the lab and helping as much as I can.
Right. So have you ever dug, or on all of the sites you've worked, do you always screen?
Well, I dug at one site on that river, but Rich Weinstein didn't take long to convince me I was not a digger, I was a screener. So, and I've been screening ever since.
Right. What's your favorite thing that you've found while screening?
Well, the favorite thing I found was my rosebud pendant that we found at Fort St. Louis. And the boy that dug it up and sent it up to the screen left the day that he found it and never got a chance to see it. So one of these days he'll come back and see what he found for me. But it was one of very few found in the United States. There's a record of it being found at in New Old Mobile. But the ones they found were not as good as the one we found, which I'm really excited about. And we haven't really verified that with them, that we have a better one than they've got.
But you know it.
No. And that was really the most exciting thing that I've found. Other than that, I've found in my screen, I found a St. Mary's Hall that was in the screen, because the digger who never misses anything just happened to miss it because of the mud that was included. And actually the condition of the soil where it was really, really compacted and not well found in the and one of the better or the best digger that we have, who is Bill Birmingham, was the one who didn't find it. And
wow.
He hadn't forgiven me since.
Wow, goodness. Would you mind telling me about when you found the rose pendant? Like, what was the day like, and how did you spot it?
Well, the day was, of course, at Fort St. Louis, they were bringing things up in a wheelbarrow full of mud and grass and everything like that. And it was a nice sunshiny day, and it was by accident that I found it, because it had gone through the screen and it was hung up on some of the grass that was down underneath, and I spotted it. And I thought, that looks awful exciting, so I picked it up. And Mike Davis, who was the head of the diggers at that time, got so excited he ran and he ran to the outhouse and got some toilet paper to wrap it in to take it. And so the boy that had dug it up never really got to see it because he left that day. And I really thought that Mike had done him a disservice by not letting him see it. But other than that, we've got it in the museum, and it's there for anybody who wants to see it. The picture that they made of it is so enlarged that it makes you think, boy, this was really something. And it really is something, but it isn't that large.
Yeah. What other sorts of things would you find at Fort St. Louis?
Well, I was kind of responsible for finding a lot of the beads, because they'd bring the stuff in from the field, and we would be doing sorting that was brought in from the field in containers, and we actually researched it like we're doing at the lab here. That lab was set up just like the one we have now, to find what they didn't find, which I think I was responsible for about 150 beads that I found, and that one being the most. And I did a little research on the beads and found that a lot of them were Islamic beads, a lot of them were the Spanish beads, and a lot of them were actually jet beads that probably came from Mexico, brought in by the priest.
Right.
They used that black onyx or black jet for actually making rosary beads for themselves.
Yeah. Could I also ask you about Lavell?
Lavell? Well,
Yeah.
I didn't have a great deal to do with Lavell. I was a screener, and they let me go down and look at the boat once in a while when they got through, and they let me go down and watch them digging down there. I made several trips down, but my responsibility was on Thursday I'd go down and I'd get to go down on most Thursdays when they didn't. I went down on Thursday because that was my day that was available. And if they didn't have a volunteer to go out that day, then I would get to go out with them. And I really enjoyed that part of it, and we found mostly beads and pins. I never did find a great deal of important things. Beads were important until they found 700,000 in a trunk. So they were lost their value pretty quick when they found that.
Right. So have you seen any changes in archaeology since you've been doing it?
Well, I keep hearing that there are going to be a lot of changes, but we're still using the old technique, and I'm sure that in the future they will find a lot of things that we have overlooked, because our method is great, but it's so time consuming that, and we've been at this for 20 years at Mcneil Site, and of course we just go out on Fridays. We did it Friday and Saturday for a while, and we'd get some folks to come down who could help do some of the excavating, but it's going to be there. Rickles said that it would probably be 28 years of digging there, and that didn't mean 28 years of digging on Friday. That meant 28 years of digging probably every day.
Oh my goodness.
So the site is very large, and we've been in 4 different areas, or maybe 5 that we've dug out there, and it's really, right now, it's more productive than any of the sites we've dug on that area. It's really, they're finding 10 to sometimes 14 artifacts in a single level. And when you pile all those together in the same, actually the same level, it's going to wind up being more exciting than anything that any of us have been involved in. Actually, even Bill is getting excited about where we are. And he's younger than I am, but he's been at it a whole lot longer than I have. I've just been at it about 25 years now, or between 20 and 25. But he's been at it since he was a young man at a DuPont. There was a site down there that was extremely productive, and he got started there. Of course, he had been doing that before the DuPont stuff. So like I say, he'd been gathering and preserving and keeping records. He and Ben, I think, had been at it since he was probably 12 or 13 years old. And we have the beauty of what he gathered is he kept very good records of the type that he found and where he found it. It's all surface finds that he found, but he's kept good records of everything. And that's something that anybody who's in archaeology needs to make sure that's what they do, is keep good records, because once you pick it up, it's no longer a part of where you picked it up from. And it's lots of folks gather up points and take them home, put them in their box, and Grandpa keeps them for 20 years, and they don't know, nobody knows where they came from. No, Grandpa doesn't even remember where they came from.
Right. So have you been working at the Mcneil site and in the lab, working with Mcneil materials for the entire time that it's been an active dig?
Well, it's been exciting to me, but and it's of course I was keeping records of Fort St. Louis before it even got to be Fort St. Louis. When I retired, I wanted to go see where the lost LaSalle was. They knew where it was, but nobody wanted to believe them. And the people in Jackson County wanted to be sure it was in Jackson County, and people in Victoria County. Of course, that area in Fort St. Louis is probably the only place in Texas that the French flag actually would have had right to be. And it's only a creek. It's not a river. So it doesn't have I would say, I don't know my territory, but it's a very small part of Texas that actually had the French flag flying over it.
Right. Kind of related to Texas history. I'm just wondering, your last name is Austin, right?
That's right.
Are you related to like Stephen F. Austin and Moses Austin?
I'm kind of a distant cousin. We descend from a common ancestor, which was Anthony. We were Anthony, and then Zachariah had 11 children before he named one of them Anthony. But if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here.
So, goodness.
So the 11th child of Zachariah was Anthony, and that's where I descend from. But we descend like we have a common family tree, but we're very distant. You know, when you get to be great grandfathers of folks, you're not really very close kin.
That's true. That's just fascinating to me. What do you think the future of archaeology looks like in Texas?
Well, I think when they finally get down here and start working on the Mcneil Site, they're going to find great things. And I'm sure that there are other places that will have common ground that way. It's just every river that has a hill on it with a few trees is a place where they weren't Indians, they were native people, but they would have been under an aqua tree, or would have found some place where they could have found water, easy access to water. And the more we look, the more we'll find. And I'm not going to be around looking and finding, but somebody will.
Right. And what do you think will happen to CoBALT? Do you think that there is enough new people coming in to keep it up?
Well, we're excited about our new group. This is probably our third group of people who have come in. And the ones that have come in lately have come in with a purpose to be a part of it. Some of them have come in and thought they wanted to be a part of it, and lasted for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then decided that wasn't what they were wanting to be into. But this last group that's come in has really got me excited, because they're really seem to be enjoying being a part of it. And when O.C. Garza and Heather Parma teamed up to be a part of CoBALT, they have changed what we're doing into something that may be more exciting. Even when I'm gone, they're going to be finding more than we've found.
Right. So what keeps you coming back to the lab and doing archaeology?
Well, it gives me something to do instead of sitting around at home and not doing anything. And it's really, I'm really excited about where the new ones are going to be taking the story. We've been trying to tell the story of CoBALT for 20 years now, and with Heather and OC and Gloria, we've come to know a whole new part of archaeology that we hadn't really known before, and they're such an exciting part of it. I have no fear that it isn't going to continue. Jeff Durst asked me when we started doing CoBALT whether we were replacing the Archaeological Society, and I says, no, we're just trying to help them. And that's what we think we're trying to do. We don't need to be signed up with any real group. We just know when we're a part of CoBALT, we're a part of CoBALT. And I don't know for sure about Gloria, but she's acting like she's wanting to be a part of us. And of course, Heather and OC and Bobby Garcia and Kathy Garcia are both coming in new. Mike, and I haven't got his last name down yet, and Charlie. So we've got more. This group has become more a part of our dig and more of a part of the activity than any group other than the original that we've had, and we're excited about that.
Can you tell me, sorry, do you have something else to say?
No,
Okay.
I think you got all the way.
Well, I've got another question. Can you tell me a story about, one of the days when you went out to Mcneil to do screening? Any day that you can think of that stands out to you or was a lot of fun or anything? Well, how about when you found that St. Mary's Hall on the screen?
Well, I've got a habit of letting people know when I find something that I kind of hoop and holler a little bit. And when I was at the lab downtown and I did that, well, they hadn't got used to my activity. They liked everything to be quiet, and they were trying to count and keep records. And I hadn't really got used to that being necessary. And I still never got used to that being necessary. So I still do a little hooping and hollering when I find something that I think is important. And it's just part of my nature, I think, is I just, when you find something that you really think you've done some good, you kind of want to hoop and holler.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I think that's all the questions that I have for today.
Okay, well, I'll try to see if I can't go and do a little hooping and hollering.
Would you do a hoop and a holler for me? Thank you.
You're welcome. And I hope I can make it real here in a minute or two when I find something.
All right.
I did find something very exciting this past week. They found a knife.
Yeah.
And the whole crew, Frank called me and let me know he wasn't coming today, but he told me about the find, and everybody that came in this morning told me about the find. So it's a hooping and hollering. If I'd have been there and found it, there would have been real hooping and hollering. So